that it was this Rama who King Dasharatha wanted to enthrone as the prince, right? As the Yuvraj, as the prince of Ayodhya, he wanted to enthrone him. So from this verse onwards, from part of the 19th verse, we have the second half of the 19th verse, we have the Ayodhya Kanda of Ramayana is presented. From here, the Ayodhya Kanda portion of the Ramayana is presented. From here, the story is going to just move. And so, I felt you will definitely, before you ask me a question, Ammaji, why Balakanda is not mentioned? Why do we begin straight from Ayodhya Kanda? We don't begin. Sage Narada chose to start from Ayodhya Kanda. Don't ask me, ask him why he chose Ayodhya Kanda and not Balakanda. But well, we say in Balakanda there is nothing that whatever needs to be said about Balakanda, whatever story needs to be presented, is indicated through certain adjectives to Sri Rama. Like for example, Ikshvaku Vamsha Prabhavaha, by indicating the lineage, the genealogy of this royal dynasty. So in that dynasty comes, King Sagara comes there. And from King Sagara comes the story of Ganga. Then in that comes the Ikshvaku king. And Sri Rama's ancestors are all these people. All that is indicated by that statement without going into those stories. There are enough episodes explaining, and without going into that, he presents. Then Mahaviryaha, the adjective Mahavirya for Sri Rama, also describes his great prowess in killing this Tataka. The diviness Tataka was killed by Sri Rama, and so that is indicated by this kind of a adjective. And Shriman, and Shriman means the one who has Shri. Shri asya asti iti Shrimat. So one who has Shri. Shri means who? Vaidehi, Sita Devi, Mahalakshmi, the one who won Sita Devi. So this is also indicated by these words, and with that Ayodhya Kanda begins. But I felt for our satisfaction we need to spend some time on Balakanda. There are some very beautiful sections and certain insights we get. So here it begins with the country of Kosala. This country of Kosala, whose capital is Ayodhya, is really the beginning of Valmiki Ramayana. So he describes in Balakanda, this city is 96 miles long and 24 miles broad, and this broad means wide, and this city was ruled by King Dasharatha's ancestor Ikshvaku, established by Ikshvaku and then carried down by his other ancestors. Now finally it is with King Dasharatha. This King Dasharatha, who was he? A very noble king. A noble king, a great king, a very highly spiritual. He was considered to be a Brahma Rishi, he was considered to be a Maharshi, not Brahma Rishi, Maharshi. Rajarshi, but Maharshi, not merely a Raja, but he had qualities of a Rishi. Such a great king he was, and the way he governed his kingdom, it is compared, Valmiki compares it to how Lord Indra governs his Airavati, that the city, the heavenly abode, how Lord Indra governs his, Airavati city, like that he governed Ayodhya. And he had immense wealth. So the wealth of Kubera was with him. He was so powerful, so God-fearing, so much loved by people. And when it comes to valor, King Dasharatha is said to be a Atiratha. Atiratha means the one who can fight many Maharathis, the one who can fight and protect not only his life, the life of his charioteer, of his horses, and the one who can handle it all. That skilled and equipped he was. And it is described that this Dasharatha Raja, he had 8 ministers. To run a country, you needed to have a minimum of 8 ministers. The names of those ministers are these priests, holy people, like Sage Vasishtha, Sage Vamadeva. They were his family priests. And not only that, he always worked with counselors, advisors, like Jabali, Kashyapa, again sages, Gautama, Muni, Markandeya, Katyayana, all these people were sages. Your counselor cannot be, a person who has his own interest and agenda in counseling. He needs to be a dispassionate, detached soul. And therefore these kings kept in their kingdom sages, tapasvis, people of penance, who could see things objectively, who could look far. They were rishis. They could see beyond what met the eyes. They could help the king strategize. They could structure, they could see the future. They could prevent calamities. So such great counselors and advisors the King Dasharatha had. And his ministers were so honest. It is described in Balakanda. Very important. We can see why our country is suffering, You can see why things are going wrong. Well, King Dasharatha's times is described in great detail of how there were no lies. There was no wrong. People could walk around with jewels. People were happy. There was no stealing. There were no fights. It was a great country of peace and great respect for their king. Love and respect for the king, not fear. Love and respect for the king. This is what King Dasharatha commanded. But there's always some twist to the story, And the twist to King Dasharatha's story is he had no progeny. He had no son to take over the kingdom from him. And so he had 3 wives, 3 queens, but then no son. And therefore, he takes the advice of his sages and counselors, and he wants to do a yaga, an Ashwamedha yaga. So this is called the horse sacrifice or Ashwamedha yaga, in which the king gives away a lot of his wealth, and followed by that a putra kameshti, seeking only one thing, and that is a male progeny to rule the kingdom. And so Dasharatha asks his members, I would like to do this, and is it okay? Of course, they are very happy. This is the right way to go to earn the goodwill and blessings of the higher world. And so yes, please go ahead and do Ashwamedha Yaga. and that will be followed by Putra Kameshti. Putra Kameshti means doing these rituals for a male progeny, it will be fulfilled. But it was said, there is one sage who has such powers. He is a very special soul. If he can come and officiate this whole Ashwamedha Yaga and Putra Kameshti, then you will have the best son a king can ask for. Who is this sage? Well, the sage is one, is very, very difficult to get him. He won't go anywhere. He doesn't go anywhere. And so there is a story about him. And King Dasharatha's charioteer, Sumantra, tells him an episode about this sage. His name is Rishya Shringa. Incidentally, I will say, this is not part of Ramayana, okay? I will say incidentally that our ashram in Uttarkashi is this bhumi, this land here is said to be the taposthali of Rishya Shringa Muni. Along Ganga banks there are different areas which are marked by tapas of different sages. So like we have sage Bhargava in Bhatwari, we have in Gangnani sage Parasara, in Mukhwa is sage Matanga Muni, then there is sage Markandeya. Like this there are many, many sages whose places on Ganga banks refer to these places as being place of tapas of these sages. And our ashram here, this our area, is the taposthali of Rishya Shringa Muni of Ramayana time. Okay. And so this was one of the first pieces of information I gathered when I came here 17 years ago. Well, so the story about Rishya Shringa is he grew up in the forest. Completely in the forest. He was the grandson of sage Kashyapa Muni, and his father was Vibhandaka, sage Vibhandaka. And this Rishya Shringa grew up in the forest. He just knew his father, who taught him all types of penance. He knew he had never seen any other beings, all right. And there was a kingdom nearby, and the king of this kingdom was Romapada, who needed some special prayers done, special esoteric prayers done. Everybody had heard of Rishya Shringa in the forest, but to bring Rishya Shringa out of the forest, make him useful to society, to the kings, it was not possible. And so this King Romapada's advisors tell him, the way to do this is to send some celestial beings, some celestial beautiful women. Let them go and be near there, live near his hermitage with his father, and maybe bring help once he gets to see other types of human beings. Maybe he will be drawn, they can bring him back to the kingdom. And if he comes to the kingdom, he can be gifted the king's own daughter. This King Romapada has an adopted daughter. Note this point. And his adopted daughter name is Shanta, who was gifted to him by King Dasharatha. So King Dasharatha had a daughter, and Romapada was childless, and he seeks Shanta, and Dasharatha gives his own daughter to him and she becomes the adopted daughter of King Romapada. And well, they are eyeing maybe Rishyashringa could marry this Shanta, and thus he will end up coming into society. Well, they strategize this, and Valmiki describes what happens, very beautiful description, and all these people go there and live near the hermitage, but they are always afraid of the father. So they try to meet him when the father is away from the hermitage. And eventually they convince him to come with them, and they bring him to the kingdom. And well, there he marries who? This Shanta princess. So now King Dasharatha, after many years, he is advised by his people, your daughter is with this king, and therefore your son-in-law is Rishyashringa. There is a prophecy from before of Sanat Kumara sage that Rishyashringa, if he comes and officiates this yaga, this sacrifice, this ritual, the divinity will descend and as your son. And so King Dasharatha goes to King Romapada's kingdom and then stays with him and then presents the situation. And of course, Rishyashringa accepts to come and help. So he brings him and Shanta, his own daughter, back to Ayodhya, and Putra Kameshti Yaga is done. And not one, but we have this celestial being that appears in this fire carrying this nectar of the sweet nectar, milk nectar, and tells King Dasharatha, well, your ritual is successful. Your Ashwamedha was successful. With Rishyashringa here, he can manifest anything. And here is this sweet drink. Please divide it among your 3 wives and have them drink it completely. And so King Dasharatha divides that payasam, the sweet, into 2 parts. 1/2 goes to Kausalya, his oldest queen, and then he takes the second half, divides that into 2 and gives half to Sumitra and the lower half to Kaikeyi, and then he finds still some more is remaining, and that some more that remain goes back to Sumitra. Okay, and so Kausalya gets, Sumitra gets 2 portions, Kaikeyi gets 1 portion. And Valmiki says, after the 12th month of the yaga, after this great ritual was performed, where many kings came and so many sages came and blessed King Dasharatha and left, 12 months after that, in Chaitra Masa, Shukla Paksha, in Navami, Punarvasu Nakshatra, Lord Rama was born. And so born to Kausalya, queen, and to Kaikeyi, Bharata was born as a second child in Pushya Nakshatra. To Sumitra, twins were born, Lakshmana and Shatrughna. And so with this we see the birth of the 4 princes, royal princes, and whose naming ceremony was done by none other than Sage Vasishtha himself. So after the 12 days of Ashuddhi, it was over. Then 13th day, the naming ceremony was done, and these were the names given by Sage Vasishtha.